In the infinite tapestry of the Force, there exist threads that, when pulled, unravel everything we thought we knew. What if the greatest deception in galactic history wasn't that a Sith Lord hid among the Senate, but that she hid behind the face of love itself? What if Padmé Amidala, Queen of Naboo, voice of peace, and Anakin's beloved, was always Darth Sidious? This is that dark thread pulled taut, where love became the ultimate weapon of the Sith. The blaster fire echoed through the marble corridors of Theed Palace like thunder trapped in stone. Captain Panaka pressed his back against the ornate column, his breath coming in short gasps as battle droids marched past, their metal feet clicking against the polished floor in perfect synchronization. Through the smoke and chaos, he caught a glimpse of Queen Amidala's elaborate headdress disappearing around a corner, her handmaidens flowing behind her like crimson shadows. In the royal chambers, away from prying eyes, something extraordinary was happening. The woman they knew as Padmé Amidala stood before an ornate mirror, but her reflection told a different story. For just a moment, the young queen's features seemed to ripple like water disturbed by an unseen hand. Behind those painted lips, a smile formed that belonged to someone much older, much darker. The ancient Sith Lord Darth Sidious had long ago mastered the art of essence transfer, wearing bodies like masks. This young Naboo girl had been her finest acquisition yet, beautiful, intelligent, positioned perfectly to rise to power. The Trade Federation's invasion of Naboo was proceeding exactly as planned. Not their plan, of course. They were merely pawns, dancing to strings they couldn't even see. Every droid deployment, every blocked transmission, every desperate plea for help that went unanswered, all of it orchestrated by the very person the galaxy sought to protect. When Qui-Gon Jinn and his young apprentice finally burst through the palace doors, lightsabers humming with deadly purpose, they found the Queen composed, regal, seemingly untouched by the violence surrounding her throne world. "Your Highness, we must get you to Coruscant. The Senate must hear your plea directly." Qui-Gon studied her for a long moment, his weathered face creased with something approaching concern. There was something off, a disturbance in the Force around the young queen, like looking at a reflection in troubled water. But the sensation passed as quickly as it came, and he attributed it to the stress of invasion, the weight of a crown on such young shoulders. During the long hyperspace journey to Coruscant, Padmé found excuses to speak with the boy. She sat beside him in the common area, her elaborate royal garments replaced with the simple clothes of a handmaiden, a disguise within a disguise, layers upon layers of deception. "Are you an angel?" "No, Anakin, I'm just Padmé." The question had amused her more than he could possibly know. Angels and demons, light and dark, such simple categorizations for simple minds. She had lived far too long, worn too many faces to believe such binary distinctions. Through the Force, she was already planting seeds, subtle influences that would take years to bloom. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. We thank you all for your continued support. 10 years had passed like the turning of a wheel, each rotation bringing the galaxy closer to its destiny. Senator Padmé Amidala stood at the podium in the Galactic Senate, her voice ringing out across the vast chamber as thousands of representatives listened with rapt attention. In public, she argued for peace while reluctantly acknowledging the need for protection. In private, using Force illusions to appear as Chancellor Palpatine in his office while her body rested in meditation, she whispered different words in different ears, stroking fears, manufacturing crises. Though it grieves me to say it, perhaps the time has come to consider the Military Creation Act. In his senatorial pod, Bail Organa frowned. This wasn't like Padmé. She had always been a voice for peace, for diplomatic solutions, yet here she stood, advocating for an army. Count Dooku, meeting with his master via hologram, sensed something amiss. The blue figure of Darth Sidious flickered before him, hood drawn low. There was something about the timing of certain events, the way information flowed, that suggested his master was playing an even deeper game than he realized. Sometimes, Sidious would reference conversations or events that only Senator Amidala should have known about. Meanwhile, young Anakin Skywalker, now a Padawan under Obi-Wan's tutelage, found himself repeatedly assigned to protect Senator Amidala. Each mission brought them closer, each conversation deepened their bond. She knew exactly which wounds to press, which desires to nurture. "You've grown." Obi-Wan watched from a distance, unease settling in his stomach like a cold stone. Something about the Senator's influence over his Padawan felt wrong, predatory even, but how could he voice such concerns about someone who had been a friend to the Jedi for so long? The wedding on Naboo was a small affair, just Anakin, Padmé, and the droids as witnesses. The sunset painted lake country in shades of gold and crimson, a beautiful backdrop for a terrible beginning. Every kiss, every touch was calculated to deepen his dependence on her. "I would do anything for you. I know, my love, I know." Their secret marriage became the cornerstone of Anakin's corruption, though he couldn't see it. Every doubt about the Jedi Order, every frustration with her rules and restrictions, Padmé was there to soothe and validate. She never pushed too hard, never said anything that would trigger his defensive instincts. Instead, she simply agreed, understood, supported. She would whisper about how the Council feared his power, how Obi-Wan was holding him back out of jealousy. Meanwhile, as Chancellor Palpatine, a role she maintained through elaborate force projections and occasional body doubles for public appearances, she became Anakin's confidant in different ways. The old man seemed to understand him, to see his potential where the Jedi saw only danger. Anakin never suspected that his wife's frequent diplomatic missions coincided perfectly with his meetings with the Chancellor. He thought he was balancing two relationships, never imagining they were one and the same, two faces of a single entity that was systematically destroying everything the Jedi held sacred. The siege of Mandalore raged like a storm of steel and flame. Ahsoka Tano, no longer a Jedi but still a warrior, led the 501st Legion through the crystalline cities of the warrior world. But it was in the throne room where everything changed. Maul sat upon the stolen throne, his mechanical legs sprawled carelessly, a king of nothing ruling over chaos. When Ahsoka finally confronted him, lightsabers drawn, he didn't attack immediately. Instead, he laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "The Senator, the Queen, the beloved Padmé Amidala. Can't you feel it? The darkness that clings to her like perfume? You're insane. She'll destroy him, you know? Your precious Anakin. She'll hollow him out and wear him like a coat." Their duel was fierce but brief. Ahsoka captured him, as history demanded, but his words haunted her. There had been moments, hadn't there? Times where she'd been around Senator Amidala and felt uneasy. Nothing she could pinpoint, just a sensation like standing at the edge of a very deep pit. She tried to voice her concerns to Obi-Wan later, but he dismissed them. Senator Amidala had been a friend to the Jedi Order since she was 14 years old. Whatever Maul was trying to achieve with his lies couldn't be allowed to succeed, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The nightmares began 3 months before the end of the war. Anakin would wake gasping, sweat-soaked, his hand reaching for Padmé to assure himself she was still there, still breathing. What he didn't know, couldn't know, was that she was the architect of his dreams. Each night, as he slept beside her, she would carefully craft the visions, inserting them into his sleeping mind with the precision of a surgeon. The images were vivid, visceral, her face twisted in agony, her hand growing cold in his, the sound of a baby crying as its mother's breath stopped. She would comfort him afterward, all while pressing on his deepest wound, his failure to save his mother. Easy words from someone who's never loved. The Chancellor mentioned something once, about a Sith Lord who could prevent death. Days turned to weeks, and his visions grew worse. Anakin became desperate, researching everything he could about force healing, about preventing death. The Jedi archives offered nothing but philosophy about accepting loss, letting go. But Padmé was there, always understanding, always suggesting that perhaps the Jedi didn't have all the answers. Perhaps there were other paths to the power he sought. Over his shoulder, where he couldn't see, she would smile. The smile of Darth Sidious, ancient and terrible, worn on Padmé Amidala's beautiful face. The confrontation in the Chancellor's office began as history recorded. Mace Windu and 3 Jedi Masters arrived to arrest Chancellor Palpatine. The Sith Lord's reveal, the Crimson Blade, the deadly dance that followed. Masters Fisto, Kolar, and Tin fell in seconds, leaving only Mace to face the darkness. Their blades locked, violet against red. The fate of the galaxy balanced on their edge, and then the door opened. But it wasn't Anakin who entered first, it was Padmé. She walked forward, and as she moved, the impossible truth was revealed. The Chancellor's form flickered and dissolved. A force projection so perfect even the Jedi had been fooled. There was only Padmé standing there now, but Padmé holding the red lightsaber, Padmé with yellow eyes, Padmé wearing Sith robes beneath her senatorial gown. That's impossible! I've worn this face since I was 14, Master Windu. Every vote for peace, every plea for diplomacy, all while orchestrating the very conflicts I pretended to oppose. That's when Anakin arrived, bursting through the door, lightsaber already ignited. He saw Mace, saw Padmé with the red blade, and his world shattered like glass. Everything he believed, everything he knew was crumbling around him. She was both his wife and the Sith Lord, the mother of his unborn children, and the architect of the war. Choose, Anakin. The Jedi who've lied to you, held you back, or your wife, your family, your future? The moment stretched like a held breath. Then Anakin moved, and his blade found Mace Windu's wrist. Mace Windu's hand, still holding the lightsaber, tumbled toward the shattered window. Padmé's Force lightning was already erupting from her fingers, catching him in its embrace. The Jedi Master screamed as he was thrown from the tower, disappearing into the endless depths of Coruscant. Anakin fell to his knees, his lightsaber clattering across the floor. What had he done? He had chosen love over the light, family over the Force, but love itself had been the weapon used against him. They'll come for us. Then we'll stop them first. Even the children, my love. They'd grow up to hunt our children. All of them. She held him as he shook, this boy she'd been shaping since he was 9 years old, now, finally, completely hers. Looking back, this was the moment Anakin Skywalker truly died. Not when he took his Sith name, not when he donned the armor, but here, in the arms of his wife, choosing love over everything else, not knowing that love itself had been the weapon used to destroy him. The temple burned against the night sky like a funeral pyre for the Republic itself. Padmé stood on the Senate building's highest balcony, watching the flames with satisfaction. Beside her, Anakin stared at the same view with hollow eyes. The younglings, the masters, all of them, gone by his hand, for her. In the Senate chamber the next morning, Padmé Amidala took the podium. Gone were the elaborate gowns of Naboo, replaced by simple, severe black robes. The transformation from senator to emperor was visual as well as political. The Jedi's attempted coup has been thwarted. For the safety and security of our society, the Republic will be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire. The cheers were deafening. Democracy didn't die with a whimper. It died with a thunderous applause from those too afraid or too blind to see what they were losing. Bail Organa and Mon Mothma watched in horror, understanding now that every peace negotiation, every diplomatic mission, she had been both the problem and the solution. We resist. Not today, but someday. We gather others who see the truth. Behind her throne stood Anakin, now christened Darth Vader, though not yet in the armor that would define him. His yellow eyes scanned the crowd for any sign of dissent. He was her guardian, her weapon, her greatest victim. The medical facility on Polis Massa was hidden, secret, known only to a select few. It was here that Padmé had chosen to give birth, away from prying eyes. She lay on the medical bed, but there was no pain in her face, no fear. Childbirth for a being who had transcended death itself through Sith alchemy was merely an inconvenience. Her current body would serve for decades more, but these children, they were her true immortality. Twins, a boy and a girl. She held them, one in each arm, and for a moment she looked like any other mother, but behind her eyes, calculations were already spinning. Perfect vessels, the boy especially. She could feel the Force flowing through him like a river of light. In time, when her current body grew old, he would make an ideal replacement. The door burst open. Obi-Wan Kenobi stood there, lightsaber ignited, his face a mask of determination and despair. Force, help us, it's you! You're the Sith Lord! You've always been the Sith Lord! Hello, Obi-Wan. Would you like to meet the children? They're quite remarkable. The duel that followed between master and apprentice was vicious, desperate. They fought through the medical facility, onto the platforms outside, above rivers of lava. When Anakin fell, his limbs severed, burning by the lava's edge, it was Padmé who rescued him. Not out of love, but investment. He was still useful, would be more useful still once rebuilt. The armor was black as space itself, each piece crafted to inspire fear while sustaining what remained of Anakin Skywalker's ruined body. As the mask descended for the first time, Padmé stood watching, the twins in a nearby cradle. Can you hear me, my love? Yes, Master. She smiled at the title. He understood now, completely, what their relationship had always been. Not equals, never equals. She was the master, he was the apprentice, and he would serve her until she decided otherwise. But even as she savored her victory, forces were moving against her. Yoda and Obi-Wan, meeting in secret, had made a desperate plan. When Padmé next went to the nursery, she found it empty. The twins were gone, stolen in the night by Jedi who understood that these children represented either the galaxy's damnation or its salvation. Her rage was terrible to behold. The entire facility was destroyed. Every droid, every witness. Vader himself barely survived her fury. Find them. Find our children. And so the Empire truly began. Emperor Padmé Amidala publicly mourning the death of her children in childbirth, privately orchestrating the systematic hunt for Force-sensitive children across the galaxy. On Tatooine, Owen and Beru Lars took in a baby boy. On Alderaan, Bail Organa presented his wife with a daughter, and on Dagobah, Yoda sat in his hut, meditating on a future where these children might someday rise to destroy the monster their mother had become. Obi-Wan, aging in the desert, watching over Luke from afar, would sometimes wake from nightmares where he saw Padmé's face, beautiful, terrible, wearing the Emperor's crown. The greatest deception in galactic history was complete. The Sith had not merely defeated the Jedi or conquered the Republic, they had done so while being loved, celebrated, and willingly handed power by those they meant to enslave. In her throne room on Coruscant, Emperor Padmé Amidala sat in darkness, Vader at her right hand, planning for the day when her children would return. The galaxy had fallen not to a villain, but to a hero, and that perhaps was the cruelest truth of all. As the twin suns set on Tatooine, a baby boy named Luke cried in his aunt's arms, unaware that his destiny was either to save the galaxy from his mother's darkness or become her greatest weapon. The Empire would endure, built on the foundation of the greatest deception ever achieved. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of what might have been, remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for more explorations of the infinite possibilities within that galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you, always.